Welcome to the Skeptic Zone, the podcast from Australia for science and reason.
Hello and welcome to the Skeptic Zone, episode number 388 for the 27th of March 2016. Richard Saunders here with you from Sydney, Australia. A little bit of a subdued Richard Saunders today. Sadly, as some of you know by now, my dear mother died yesterday. But she was quite at peace in the hospital, and all her children and family were surrounding her. Mother had inherited from her mother, we widely suspect anyway, from her mother, the defective BRCA2 gene, which is the breast cancer and ovarian cancer gene. Some of you may have heard of this from Angelina Jolie. She has that defective gene and another one, which is pretty bad. 30 years ago, my mother could have died from breast cancer, but she didn't because of the state of medical science in the 1980s. It was good enough to give her another 30 years of life. About 12 years ago, the cancer attacked her stomach, and she was in hospital for 6 weeks, then started chemotherapy. In the last year or so, though, the cancers came back. Mum had some more chemotherapy, which gave us some more time, but ultimately, of course, now many of us, of course, owe our mothers quite a lot. But as a 8-year-old boy who couldn't read very well at all, having Mum sit down with me and turn the pages of the origami book step by step until we did manage to fold the frog, it meant a lot to me then, and it still does. So goodbye and many thanks to Phyllis Maud Saunders, who was born into the Walker family. Oh, and by the way, she was a terrific grandma. To my nephews and nieces, oh my goodness me. And for the rest of their lives, they will remember Grandma and the way that Grandma always had lovely treats for them whenever they came to visit. Now this, coincidentally, prompts me to tell you about an article which has been brought to my attention by our very own reporter Heidi Robertson, the Raw Skeptic, who you will hear later on in the show. And this appears at theguardian.com, and the title is "Don't Tell Cancer Patients What They Could Be Doing to Cure Themselves," and this is by Steven W Thrasher. There are many ways to support someone going through cancer treatment. Recommending pseudo-scientific treatments isn't one of them. If you're a religious person, for the love of God, don't tell someone with cancer that if they just drank juice or take vitamins or pray or have a positive attitude that they could cure themselves. And if you're not a religious person, for the love of reason and decency, don't tell someone with cancer any of these things either. It was my late sister Sharon's birthday last week, and it's Easter this week, my second time spending 2 holidays without her, and we often celebrated together each spring. If Sharon was feeling good, I'd have a tepid sense of hope for her as her beloved peonies, which are flowers, came into bloom. She lived with a rare type of sarcoma tissue cancer for 15 years, and we never knew if each season of renewal would be her last. Since she's been gone, I've been able to understand that my sister wasn't alone in a particular burden she bore. I've been hearing from friends with cancer and other serious illnesses. They are overwhelmed when concerned people lob suggestions at them for homeopathic remedies they should be doing. Over the years, it was painful for me to see people tell my sister and me that she could just cure herself if she really wanted to. Didn't she know that if she just drank lemon juice every day, she could wipe her cancer cells out? That if she just watched the Netflix documentary The Gerson Miracle, she'd be okay? That if she were only willing to take vitamins or eat raw food or do yoga or look at the bright side of things, her illness would go away? Let's put aside for the moment that none of these claims have been validated by peer-reviewed science and that none of them are true. Juice is no more of a magical answer to illness than the Gerson methods demand for people who are sick to eat raw calf liver or shove coffee grounds into their rectums. Let's also put aside that a variety of modern medical procedures, including chemotherapy, radiation, surgery and more, plus inexplicable luck, helped keep my sister alive for many years more than expected. And she died despite having a well-developed sense of spirituality, nutrition, humour and tenacity. Let's instead confront the 3 reasons I think it's an act of violence every time someone suggests a simplistic, unproven and fantastic cure for another's cancer. First, it's condescending. If lemon juice really cured cancer, don't you think we'd all be dancing around citrus trees? That lemonade would be traded on Wall Street and hedge funds would be peddling lemon-flavoured credit default swaps? More importantly, when someone has a cancer for months or years, maybe living through hours of doctor appointments, days in hospital and months in bed, don't you think they'd have time to consider every possible option with the seriousness their own mortality deserves? My sister was a PhD and a licensed psychologist, and she fought hard as a black woman to establish her place in the medical profession. Why would people look at her and think, well, in all these years of facing death as a doctor consulting other doctors, she probably so lacking in intellectual curiosity, or she is such a stooge of big pharma, that I bet she hasn't considered this advice I read in a magazine. Second, it could be argued that people giving advice are just trying to, quote, do something, end quote, and kindly offer help. But I reject this. If you want to do something to help someone in distress, as George Carlin famously wrote, unplug their clogged toilet or paint their garage. Don't tell a sick or injured person what they should do because it's a sneaky and harmful way of dealing with your own fear of death. You're saying, tisk tisk, I wouldn't let this happen to me the way you've let it happen to you. Finally, giving advice to people with cancer blames the sick person for your discomfort with their reality and shifts any accountability you feel back onto them. As authors Barbara Ehrenreich and Sarah Schumann have shown, we have ethical responsibilities to the vulnerable in our communities, and we find excuses to avoid them. Having cancer or caring for someone with it understandably causes fear, anxiety, and depression. Expecting someone to have a positive attitude, trademark, when they are facing mortality or telling them that they've missed a simplistic way that could have avoided their fate further isolates and shuns them. As anthropologist S. Lachlan Jane wrote in Malignant, How Cancer Becomes Us, quote, the huge and punishing self-help industry preys on the fears and adds guilt to the mix. As one woman with metastatic colon cancer said on a retreat I attended, maybe I haven't laughed enough. Talking at someone with cancer about what they should do rather than being with them in a morass with no easy answers is not helping them. It is you unfairly shaming them for having failed at self-help, which isn't even a thing. It's hard to be with people in grief. It is hard to be with people who are facing death or with their caregivers. The next time you are, don't give them stupid advice. They're not stupid. Trust they're given more thought to their course of treatment than you did listening to that public radio story. Trust yourself to be just with them in the unknown. Trust yourself to love them in the condition they're in, instead of ignorantly and egotistically giving them useless advice that won't ultimately change their prognosis. One of the last and most frightening lessons I learned with my sister in her final days was the importance of being with another when there is nothing to do or say. It is terrifying to just be with a loved one and to admit you're powerless to stop their death. But it can be the most powerful, quiet and loving gift you can give each other. And that was Don't Tell Cancer Patients What They Could Be Doing to Cure Themselves by Steven W Thrasher, as published at theguardian.com. So, well, now, what's coming up on the rest of the Skeptic Zone? We're going to kick off with the Raw Skeptic Report, Heidi Robertson. And she's going to be discussing what the Northern Rivers Vaccination Supporters Group do, speaking about fighting quack cures, to promote themselves and spread the message of vaccination in their area. And it's a good lesson for everybody. Heidi's going to be discussing some of the memes and posters and things that they've created. After that, we have a press release by the Friends of Science in Medicine. What a good group they are, doing fantastic work, necessary work to combat quackery. And this press release is all about so-called integrative medicine. Then to round off the show, something a little bit more lighthearted, and why not? I think we could all use it. Maynard and I, the other week, went to a meetup group, which we do regularly, the Podcasting Sydney group, and Maynard chats to the guest speaker. Now, this is one of the guys behind the Spooky Blokies podcast, which is quite fun. Two guys get on their bikes and ride around Sydney suburbs. And with microphones attached to the side of their head and, give a riding commentary of what they see. Good fun. And Maynard also speaks to Siobhan O'Sullivan, the founder of Podcasting Sydney, about her podcast, Knowing Animals. Now, if you're in Sydney and you make a podcast or just like podcasts, then I can certainly recommend this meetup group. All you have to do is Google Podcasting Sydney and Meetup to find the page. Well, that's enough for me right now. I'm going to run downstairs, have a cup of coffee, and remember fondly the award-winning chocolate cake. Only about 2 years ago, my mother won the local, in her village, the local competition for chocolate cakes or cakes. That's going to be tough. I'm going to miss that and her peanut butter cookies. Well, I'm doing that. I hope you enjoy the Skeptic Zone.
It's the Raw Skeptic Report with Heidi Robertson.
Hi, Heidi Robertson here. If you are a regular listener, you would have heard both Richard and I talking a lot about vaccination and the Northern Rivers Vaccination Supporters Group. Over the nearly 3 years that the NRVS has been in existence, we've managed to achieve a few things. All of us that manage that group have jobs and families, and of course what we do for NRVS is completely voluntary and in our own time, which we do gladly, but it does dictate to an extent how much we can achieve in a fixed period of time. The goal of turning around this region's abysmal vaccination rates was never going to happen overnight, of course. It will take time, and as the world's most impatient person, this has been a hard thing for me to come to terms with. But step by baby step, we're making some inroads and getting our message out there. As part of our presence on social media, we decided to come up with some memes and infographics that we could post on our Facebook page. Most people's Facebook pages and Twitter feeds are filled with news items, links to opinion pieces and blogs, of course the obligatory cat photos and videos, and a million other things. One cannot possibly hope to read or keep up to date with everything that appears on one's feed. With a subject like vaccination, where the science for us lay people can get quite complicated at times, it's important to be able to have some eye-grabbing memes with a simple but powerful message. The ones we post are not propaganda. If we post an infographic or a meme with statistics or facts, we will always post links to the evidence behind our statements. So one of our admins, Dr. Rachel Heap, began to try her hand at making some memes. Over time, we assessed which ones had the most impact on social media by way of likes, shares, comments and reach. We chose the top 4 and had them printed into A3-sized posters, which are now, I'm pleased to say, in GPs' waiting rooms, hospitals, baby health clinics and notice boards throughout the Northern Rivers. We have relied on our members volunteering to distribute them and are very grateful for their willingness and enthusiasm in helping. The first poster focuses on whooping cough. One of our members kindly gave us a photo featuring herself with her baby, sister and mother. The text says, quote, "Is there a new baby in your family? Being vaccinated against whooping cough will not only protect you, it will also protect the people around you. Facts. 1. 9 out of 10 babies less than 3 months old who get pertussis have to be looked after in hospital, and most have to stay in hospital about a week. Some die even with the best medical support available. 2. Pertussis immunity wears off after the disease and after the vaccination. All adults in contact with a baby should have a booster every 10 years. 3. If you are pregnant, ask your doctor about how you can safely protect your baby with a booster in the 3rd trimester. If you don't get the disease, you can't pass it on." End quote. The second poster focuses on measles. The title, quote, "Let's compare 2 populations of 100,000 people, one vaccinated, one not. What would happen if they were all exposed to the measles?" End quote. We then have 2 pie charts, one titled Vaccinated Population and the other Unvaccinated Population. And, well, the pie charts speak for themselves. It's an extremely powerful visual that you can check out on our Facebook page, along with all the others that I'm mentioning today. The 3rd and 4th posters focused particularly on a subset of the demographic in the Northern Rivers who lead alternative lifestyles. We wanted to make the point that leading an alternative lifestyle and vaccination do not have to be mutually exclusive. You can do both. Unfortunately, the view seems to be, amongst many here, that if you do choose the so-called crunchy lifestyle, you must embrace all of it, which includes not vaccinating. So, one of these posters also has a photo donated by one of our members with herself and her toddler out in the veggie patch together. The text, "I teach my kids how to grow our own veggies and take care of the environment. I also choose to vaccinate to safely give them specific immunity to some serious infectious diseases. No food can do that for them. Protecting my kids comes naturally." End quote. The 4th poster also features a member of our group breastfeeding her child with a similar message. On our website, nrvs.info, we have flyers available for anyone to download that have proved very useful for expectant mothers, as well as immune-suppressed people from all over the world. People have told us they have put them up on their front door or their hospital door or posted them on social media for family and friends to see. One was made in conjunction with Kath and Greg Hughes from Light for Riley, who, as I'm sure you remember from previous reports, tragically lost their baby Riley to pertussis at only 32 days old. It features a beautiful photo of Riley and the text, quote, "No vax, no visit. To protect our new baby, we ask that all our friends and family make sure that they are up to date with their vaccinations. Please talk to your doctor about which vaccines you may require. Immunity wears off particularly quickly for whooping cough, so you need regular boosters. Thank you, and we can't wait for you to meet our new addition." End quote. The next is similar, but focuses on raising awareness of how any infection or seemingly minor ailment can be dangerous for a new baby, and lists things like influenza, a rash, a temperature, cold sores, and so on. And for the immune-suppressed, a flyer, quote, "Are you planning on visiting? Please help protect me whilst I'm sick. My disease and treatment leave me vulnerable to infection, and what might be trivial for you could be very serious for me. Thank you, and I can't wait to see you. These are ways in which you can help, but if in doubt, please call first. Are you all up to date with your vaccinations? Is anyone at daycare, kindy, school or work currently sick with something infectious? Even if you are well, you could be carrying it with you. Do you have a cough or cold, a rash or a temperature? Have you washed your hands? End quote. And of course, we also have flyers for download in both colour and black and white about our group and our contact details. Please feel free to head on over to the website and download the flyers if you have anyone in your life that may benefit from them. And as always, we would value your support on our Facebook page. Can I just end with one more thing? If there is something in your community that you want to change in order to help or benefit people, don't think you can't make a difference. Just make a start. You never know where it may lead you. Thank you, everyone. Till next time.
And now a new little bit of information from our friends in Victoria, the Vic Skeptics, who want you to know that this year's Australian Skeptics National Convention will be held in Melbourne on the 25th to the 27th of November. The organising committee are selecting speakers a little differently this year. In addition to invited speakers, you can put yourself forward as a possible speaker. The 2016 convention website includes a call for papers link. If you think you have the makings of an excellent presentation for a skeptical audience, please let the organising committee know via call for papers link. There are a range of time slots available, from short 15-minute Skepticamp style type talks up to the full 40-minute time slots. And don't forget, the Vic Skeptics have already snared Lawrence Krauss and Professor Edzard Ernst for this year's convention. So, just head to http://convention.skeptics.com.au and click the link for Call for Papers. Here is a press release released on the 21st of March 2016 by the Friends of Science in Medicine at www.scienceinmedicine.org.au. Healthcare Watchdog endorses concern about integrative medicine. Friends of Science in Medicine, FSM, has endorsed the concerns about integrative medicine published today in the Medical Journal of Australia. The analysis by Professor Edzard Ernst, a leading international authority on complementary and alternative medicine, claims that the vast majority of integrative clinics advertise alternative therapies that lack a solid evidence base, and that integrative medicine is little more than an, quote, ill-conceived concept, end quote, in conflict with evidence-based medicine. Professor John Dwyer, president of FSM, stressed that FSM had been issuing similar warnings for some time about the emergence of integrative medicine in Australia. Quote, many GPs who lead integrative medicine practices promote alternative medicine concepts to their patients and, in doing so, abandon the long-held commitment of doctors to champion the importance of credible scientific evidence of clinical effectiveness underpinning the care they provide to patients, end quote, said Professor Dwyer. Quote, The prestigious National Health and Medical Research Council recently reported to government that they could find no evidence of clinical benefit from any of the 18 most common alternative modalities commonly promoted in integrative medicine, end quote, he said. FSM strongly supports research into traditional therapies that are not an affront to accepted knowledge of physiology and pathology, and where there is strong anecdotal evidence to suggest proper scientific evaluation would be important. However, neuroscientist Professor Marcello Costa claimed, quote, integrative medicine has nothing to do with proper efforts to bring scientific and alternative medicine together in ways that would determine what works and what does not work. Participants in integrative medicine practices are promoting parallel pathways, mixing science-based health professions with pseudoscience-based health professions, suggesting that this approach offers patients the best of both worlds, end quote. In his recent address to University of Adelaide medical graduates, published this month in Medic SA, Emeritus Professor Alistair McLennan, Vice President of FSM, warned the new graduates that they would be challenged by an upsurge in non-evidence-based therapies and alternative therapies, and that, quote, they should not be seduced into lucrative but unproven and therefore untenable amalgam of traditional medicine and pseudoscientific alternative practices, end quote. Professor McLennan quoted Professor David Gorski as saying, quote, when health fraud turns into alternative medicine and then evolved into complementary and alternative medicine and then reached its final form of integrative medicine, the language war was lost. That's how quackery became mainstream, end quote. Quote, the Australian federal government has no legitimate basis to continue funding health fraud and quackery, end quote, said Professor McLennan today. Quote, just as the government is appropriately suggesting removing Medicare benefits for unproven or low-value medical and surgical procedures, there are no grounds for continuing to subsidise a vast array of unproven therapies directly or indirectly through private insurance rebates, end quote. And that media release comes to us from the Friends of Science in Medicine at www.scienceinmedicine.org.au. Sydney Siders, on the 9th of April, we have the Australian Skeptics dinner meeting, and this time the topic is evolution. Now, you might have thought creationism was dead, done and dusted, but far from it. We're kicking off our new year of Sydney Skeptics dinner meetings with a bit of an eye-opener, the evolution of the anti-evolution movement. Professor Graham Oppy, head of the School of Philosophical, Historical and International Studies at Monash University, says that since the year 2000, the teaching of creationism in the science classes has become more prevalent. Groups like the Christian Science Foundation, Answers in Genesis, Creation Ministries and Creation Research work hard to get their materials into schools. And this includes giving creationist show bags to students in New South Wales. Who better then to speak on this topic than someone involved in the famous US Kitzmiller versus Dover trial in the year 2005 over a policy that required the teaching of intelligent design in biology classes. So Dr. Nick Matsky will be there, and he's a postdoctoral scientist at the Australian National University, holding a Discovery Early Career Research Award from the Australian Research Council. From 2004 to 2007, Nick worked for the US National Centre for Science Education, which combats attempts to insert creationism and anti-other science topics into the public schools. So that's the Sydney Skeptics dinner meeting, the 9th of April, at the Ryde Eastwood Leagues Club, kicking off at 6:30. And you can get your tickets at www.skeptics.com.au, and we'll see you there.
Here's Maynard's spooky action at a distance.
Once again, a group of shadowy people from a shadowy background and perhaps members of the shadow government meet underground in Camperdown in a place that has alcohol upstairs, alcohol downstairs and alcohol inside us. We're with a man who has a unique podcast, because you are listening to a podcast and maybe you'd like to listen to his podcast. Who have we got here?
G'day, I'm Rodney Todd from the podcast Spooky Blokies.
Spooky Blokies. So you'd have a male agenda about that, wouldn't you? You'd have a bit of white male privilege going on then.
See, that was one of the approved names of our podcast. Originally, it was I wanted psychedelics, but they didn't like that. But then there was also someone suggested, how about pedophiles? And I thought, I think Spooky Blokies is better than that. So, but we're probably the least blokey blokes you probably know.
Now, you just get around cheesing it off on a bike with the two of you, talking to locals in Sydney or Melbourne suburbs?
Yeah, we ride around. Sometimes we just talk to each other and waffle on about the suburb, or we talk about some story that happened, or we reenact a scene that didn't happen, or sometimes we argue about something.
Now, I heard you record about an hour's worth of stuff and it comes back to 15 minutes, so that's pretty good. You could be chucking away a lot of rubbish and it's cool.
Yes, a lot of rubbish and a lot of puffing while we're riding up hills, very steep hills.
Do you actually drink alcohol while you ride?
Actually, I did try in one of the up-and-coming episodes to drink a Pinot Noir while I was riding, but I'll give it away, at Cockatoo Island, but there was only a really small bit you could drink at, so I couldn't really do that right around there, unless I held onto the pole, but that'd be pretty boring.
So it's either a cycling podcast that's a comedy or a comedy cycling podcast. How would you describe it?
It's just two guys riding bikes talking, I think. We probably don't even know the name. I didn't even know the name of my bike, so it's probably not really much of a cycling podcast.
And where will we find it?
On the internet. We've got a website, spokyblokies.com, and on iTunes and Stitcher.
That's Spooky Blokies. And, of course, if they've got something to say to you, can they contact you through your Facebook page?
Yeah, Facebook, Twitter, or on our website, or email spokyblokies@gmail.com.
Yeah, and of course, if you can't actually get yourself near an MP3 player for some reason, how can people see you live? Because you're about to break yourself across the left-wing capital of Melbourne.
Yes, we're playing at the Melbourne International Comedy Festival. We'll be at the Melbourne Trades Hall in Carlton.
Yeah.
And we've got some live shows around early April to mid-April.
Right, so there'll be a few communists coming to see the show.
I guess so. I'll say hey to them, I guess.
And of course, the person who runs the whole thing is Siobhan, and you've heard her on the show before with Thinking Animals.
Thank you, Maynard. Yes, knowing animals.
Oh, sorry. Well, but they do think, don't they?
They do think, so it's our job to know that they think.
Okay, and what have you got coming up on your podcast?
Oh, I've got a couple of great episodes. The one that came up last week was about vegan sexuality. So the big question is it okay for vegans to have sex with meat eaters?
Is it a whole scent thing? Because you can smell the rissoles.
Well, it's very controversial. It's interesting. Ingrid Newkirk from PETA says that it's the duty of every female vegan to have sex with a meat eater, convert him to veganism, and then move on to the next partner.
Wow, so like a meat succubus.
Kind of.
Wow. Okay. Well, see, that's good. That's coming up in the show, and I thought you didn't do anything controversial.
Yeah, so that's one of our most exciting episodes, but we're also speaking to Jessica from the Cruelty Free Shop. Tomorrow I'm going to interview Bitter Jones, who is from RSPCA Australia. She's just written a book about the live animal export trade. So it's all about animals, it's all about the vegan community and about activism, but it's a very diverse podcast.
And it's evidence-based most of the time?
So half of the people we speak to are academics, and they're speaking about their published work that's generally peer-reviewed, and half the time we speak to activists. So you tell me, is it evidence-based or not?
I'll have a listen and I'll let you know. What's the web address?
So you can listen to Knowing Animals via Libsyn. You can also go to iTunes, and on Twitter we're at knowing_animals and Knowing Animals at Facebook.
Oh, and of course the next meetup for Sydney podcasters, if you think you would like to start a podcast, if you've got an interest in podcasting, if you'd just like to know how to get into it, or even just got a passing interest in podcasting, come along. When's our next meeting?
Podcasters, one and all, join us at Podcasting Sydney. We meet regularly at the Chippendale Hotel. You can find all the information at Podcasting Sydney. It's a meetup group. Our next podcast meetup is going to be one in which we speak to Lindsay from Frenzal Rom, otherwise known as The Doctor, and then soon after that we're going to tour a podcasting studio at UTS. So plenty coming up. Go to Podcasting Sydney at Meetup.
And we've got a range of podcasts here in the room, from psychology through to lots of comedy to science, of course, and the cyclists.
G'day.
So come along and join us.
Yes, join us, one and all. And not only are we talking podcasts, we're also recording a podcast right now. So thank you very much, Maynard, and thank you very much to the Skeptic Zone. Yeah.
On Maynard.com.au. Time to start Bunga Bunga 25.
It's Bunga Bunga
With Tim Ferguson and
Maynard. That's right, Maynard.
Louis Theroux is coming to tour. You a bit of a fan of Louis?
I have a couple of close friends who don't drink tea or coffee, and I have to say I find it a bit weird.
Everybody loves Louis, so I don't.
Wow.
All he does is he hangs around and asks questions like a sociopath.
If she calls you, don't call straight back.
No matter what he hears or sees, he always looks vaguely shocked. Everybody says he's cool. My rule of thumb usually is if people go, ooh, on Triple J, I go...
Today on Bunga Bunga, we will have Tim's musical quest. Crank mail. And a very intense burning social issue. Also, Tim tells you where to get off when it comes to music.
I'll tell you, stand by, you won't like it.
Coming up, we've got a Meynardarama in Newcastle on the Saturday, the 2nd of April, where we're showcasing the work of Olivia Newton-John. So if you've got some roller skates, it could be a bit of a Xanadu night for you there, Tim.
That is fantastic. You go to Mega, make sure you're dressed properly. Why not push things further than they should go?
Saturday the 2nd of April, come along to the amazing Royal Exchange and we'll have some fun there. Tim Ferguson, who do you think was Jack the Ripper?
The person who was Jack the Ripper is the person who would always get away with it. The last person you would think.
Benedict Cumberbatch.
That's good.
I've nailed it. Benedict Cumberbatch, Sherlock, he is Jack the Ripper.
Actually, it was Boy George.
Do you really want to hurt me?
Because nobody suspects the guy who's dressed like Boy George was in the 80s. Nobody ever stops and says, what else is he up to? Because it seems like he's already up to everything.
I can't abide that. It had to be Benedict Cumberbatch.
Yeah, Benedict Schmedict.
The Whitechapel murders solved.
Bunga Bunga!
On Maynard.com.au.
Thank you for listening to the Skeptic Zone, and maybe now you understand why the Skeptic Zone over the last few months has been a little up and down. Well, hopefully the quality has still been there, but a lot of my time was taken up caring for my mother, which was a good thing to do. Next week on the show, I hope to be speaking to one of the organisers of Paracon Australia, taking place in May the 26th to the 29th in Katoomba in the Blue Mountains near Sydney. A paranormal convention. Oh yes, with ghost hunters and psychics and all sorts of things. And the reason I'll be speaking to one of the organisers is because I'm an invited speaker. That's going to be interesting. I'm going to be talking about various challenges around the world for large cash prizes if people can do their psychic claim. Yeah, I'm going to be speaking to a room full of believers in the paranormal. Oh boy. I don't know what's going to happen, but anyway, we'll find out more about the Paracon Australia on next week's show. But for this week, this is Richard Saunders with fond memories of my mum and gratitude for everything she did. Signing off from Sydney, Australia. You've been listening to the Skeptic Zone podcast. Visit our website at www.skepticzone.tv for contacts, an archive of all episodes since 2008, and our online store. Please support the Skeptic Zone by following us on Twitter @SkepticZone, liking us on Facebook, and leaving a review on iTunes. You can also show your support by subscribing via PayPal for as little as 99 cents a week. The Skeptic Zone is an independent production. The views and opinions expressed on the Skeptic Zone are not necessarily those of Australian Skeptics Inc. or any other skeptical organisation.